The snipers were key from the start of the siege. Able to take shots from rooftop sangers at targets in the city itself, they were the first line of defence against the mobile mortar team.
Right, y'all, welcome back to Combat Arms channel. Okay, so today we're checking out a video that was recommended to me, I would say maybe 2 weeks ago. This was kind of in response to the reaction that we did to the British troops in Afghanistan. But this is about the British Army operating in Iraq back in 2004. And I gotta say, a lot of people recommended this specific operation to me after that. So I guess maybe it's kind of more well known on the British Army side. Honestly, I hadn't heard about it until it was recommended to me. But today we're checking out, it's kind of like a two-parter. I will say it's an older kind of documentary, and I think it might even be, yeah, it's an older video on YouTube too. So the quality is not, fantastic, but definitely it gets kind of the point and the purpose across. So it looks like the first video is about a little under 7 minutes. The second is about 5 minutes, and it looks like it does a good job of kind of covering everyone who is involved as far as all the specific units. So kind of looking it up on Wikipedia real quick. So it was the Queen's Royal Lancers. It was Y Company of the Princess of Wales Royal Regiment, and I guess they were supplemented by some TA elements. And then we also have the Royal Welsh Fusiliers. So yeah, I gotta say, it was recommended to me by quite a lot, so I definitely wanted to check it out. So I definitely wanted to prioritize it. So I'm excited to jump into this. I gotta say, I'm not wearing kind of the usual Hawaiian shirt. Honestly, these kinds of shirts are more Hawaiian than the Hawaiian shirts that you'll see, because if you're here in Hawaii, you'll kind of see everybody wears this kind of material and this, like these kinds of graphics. And then even kind of more Hawaiian is the Kanaka Whaia. So it's like a Hawaiian band out here, and I gotta say, they have some really awesome music. If you guys kind of like reggae, or kind of like the island music, kind of like, it's like a Hawaiian reggae. If you guys kind of, like that kind of music, or if you just want to listen to it, yeah, definitely go and check these guys out. I have like a morning, it's kind of funny, I have like a morning songs playlist that I turn on whenever I'm doing my morning routine, and these guys kind of conquered that right now. I actually met the lead singer, Rands, pretty recently. This was probably maybe last week, and he gave me this shirt, which is really cool. So yeah, big shout out to Kanaka Whaia. If you guys want to listen to some cool Hawaiian reggae music, definitely recommend them. Not sponsored, just, yeah, happen to be wearing this shirt, and yeah, I guess go into a pretty long explanation for why that is. But let's go ahead and check out this operation. CIMIC House, again, it's a two-parter. Again, the quality is not fantastic, so there is that. But I think it's like an old, maybe ITV documentary or something. But I think they did a pretty good job of covering it. So let's jump into it. Now, I did kind of serve in the GWAT, but never in Iraq. So a lot of this footage, a lot of the places even might be kind of alien to me, besides just kind of what I've heard from my seniors who, did a few tours to Iraq. So yeah, bear with me, I guess, if they're saying something really obvious.
In April 2004, the lads of the Princess of Wales's Royal Regiment got caught up in the biggest scrap for British troops since the 1950s.
I love this narrator, dude, I gotta say.
They were stationed in the city of Al-Amara, 100 miles to the south of Baghdad.
Okay.
Their mission was to bring peace and security to the province.
Oh yeah. He makes this sound so hype. I mean, it is hype. I mean,
the main battle group,
combat,
under the command of Lieutenant Colonel Mac Mayer, was based in Camp Abu Najib, 5 miles southwest of the city.
Okay. I gotta say, these British commanders always have these really interesting names. I mean, maybe it's just Brits in
Y
general.
Company under Major Justin Featherstone was moved into the Dragon's Den, downtown Al-Amara.
Oh damn, it's right on the water too.
The lads of Y Company moved into their new base, CIMIC House. Nestled
looks like a nice patrol base.
The other side of town from Abu Najib, the compound used to be the governor's
more than
palace.
That's definitely so, Major.
Initially, when the boys first arrived, they thought they'd arrived in the 7th heaven.
Right, that's not the main accommodation now. So, follow me.
Y Company sniper Adam Summers took a video camera with him to Iraq.
Oh, no kidding.
He kept a diary to show his family what life was like in CIMIC House.
That's cool. And here we are watching it 22 years later.
2004. 1st
Jeez.
Battalion, the Princess of Wales's Royal Regiment, are in Al-Amara, Iraq. They're meant to be on a peacekeeping mission, but for the next 4 months, they're going to be surrounded, cut off, and under siege.
4 months, dude, are you kidding?
Welcome to Al-Amara. The previous year, ordinary
4
Iraqis
months.
cheered British troops. They were happy to see Saddam gone.
Hell yeah.
But 2004
Oh,
was
nice.
different.
Oh, okay, never mind.
2004
Brother.
was a year of vicious uprisings. Muqtada al-Sadr, a Shia cleric,
Dude, and we're not just seeing like people popping out and taking pop shots. You have, I mean, whole fire teams. And look at this. You have fire teams, you have squads, you have RPGs and whatnot.
Muqtada al-Sadr, a Shia cleric,
Getting
ordered his
online.
Mahdi army to throw US troops out of Najaf.
Dude,
The uprising spread like wildfire across the country. In Al-Amara, British patrols could feel trouble brewing.
that's fuck,
When the
dude.
lads from the PWRR
Crazy how
Sniper
fast it can
platoon
turn.
took their turn on patrol, things turned ugly.
We come under our first contact, which was on the 18th of April. And that was our first actual foot patrol. And it was a familiarisation patrol. We go around the city.
First one, dude.
Know the hot spots, the certain danger areas, and get a feel for the ground and the feel for the way of life out there.
Sergeant Mills.
Yeah. So definitely important to kind of do that. It's one, to just kind of understand the lay of the land, understand where everything kind of is, because that's how you really develop your pattern of life when you get to an area, is doing the patrols. And of course, it's not going to be the same kind of patrol every single time. I mean, it can, and maybe back in Iraq, maybe it was, and maybe that's just kind of how it needs to be, depending on IEDs or what have you. But yeah, so it gives it's a good opportunity to understand the layout of everything, what it looks like during each time of day, how many people are out, where they're kind of congregating, how they're acting. Of course, it's going to be different when they see the first patrol, but kind of establishing that pattern of life, making it normal for them, but also understanding what normal looks like. So if something is about to go down, you can kind of pick it
That
out.
day was patrolling down quite near to the office of the Marsada, and some of the locals were getting agitated.
Oh, brother.
Danny Mills's patrol didn't realise it at the time, but they had parked up outside the local office of militant Shia cleric Muqtada al-Sadr.
Dude,
Not
that's
a
why
good
intel
idea.
was so big.
One of the lads on the top of one of the vehicles saw weapons being poked out the window, and literally as soon as we'd seen those, a grenade come flying over the wall, sort of like hit Daz on the breastplate, you know, and bounced under his vehicle, and then it went off.
No kidding.
Next thing I see Daz, you know, come running towards me limping, you know.
And I was just getting to the back of the vehicle when the grenade went off. And there's a certain sensory that's like, is this really happening?
Yeah, dude.
And I don't know why, but the guys that were doing top cover for me at the time, not one of them returned any rounds.
Danny
Yeah.
took out one of the guys and then just said to us, right, rapid fire. And then that was it. He was in a full-blown contact.
Yeah, especially when you're first getting into contact, I can imagine, especially if you're not too sure, one, on the rules of engagement, the ROEs, but also just, you know, you don't want to be the first one to do the first shot on that deployment. Of course, if you have the experience, you know, you might say otherwise, you might be kind of eager, but yeah, maybe some of the more junior guys were kind of trying to understand exactly what was happening.
Danny's second in command was still lying wounded in full view of the enemy. The
Oh,
boys of
dude.
Sniper Platoon had to get him to safety fast.
Yeah, getting somebody off the X in that kind of
Run
close
over there
combat.
under fire and grabbed Daz, you know, by the scruff and dragged him back over to my vehicle out, and then we all got out in cover.
It's gotta be so nerve-wracking.
The firefight lasted for over 3 hours. Eventually,
3
a team of Land Rover
hours.
snatches and Warrior fighting vehicles fought their way through to Danny's men. The lads bugged out back
Dude.
to the safety of CIMIC House. The lads had only been in CIMIC House for a day or two, and already they knew they'd had to fight to keep a British presence in the city.
Dude,
The
they got
firefight
Dragunovs
marked the
and stuff?
beginning of a new deadly phase of the conflict.
damn, dude. They were there
The
one
net
day.
closed around CIMIC House as Mahdi Army fighters surrounded the compound.
Massive incoming.
Y Company...
Dude, and that's tough when you're in a compound and they have like indirect fire and RPGs, because you're trying to maintain your fields of fire. But if you start getting, if a window gets blown out, that kind of potentially cuts that off. Or if a section of the house is kind of getting hit with more fire, it might kind of cut that off.
It was now completely cut off from the rest of the battle group in Camp Abu Naji.
That's terrifying. They're kind of just getting surrounded in Iraq.
The siege of CIMIC House had begun. In the water.
Oh,
My
dude.
mission changed.
Oh, yeah, I forgot. They're right next to the
deny
water.
CIMIC House and the Pink Palace to the enemy. And it was
Pink
as simple
Palace.
as that.
Y Company were holed up in CIMIC House
Oh, hell
all
yeah.
that spring and summer.
Is that Accuracy International?
An uneasy ceasefire was called in June. But if the lads thought that was it, they would have been very wrong. On the 5th of August, tensions between al-Sadr and US Marines at the shrine of Imam Ali in Najaf exploded again.
Oh, man.
Today's violence
Man, so it's been months
reignites the old
already
fears of a Shiite rebellion across
being there.
southern Iraq. The Shiite ceasefire is over. Andrea Catherwood, ITV News.
Yeah, and then knowing that it's coming, hopefully they're able to fortify it a lot better, though. That homie had no follow through on that shot,
The
thankfully.
135 defenders could only watch as a massive militia gathered outside CIMIC House for a second time.
Dude, that's a lot of
By 7 p.m. that
RPGs.
night, the road to Abu Naji had been cut off by 500 Mahdi fighters.
Yeah, and I'm kind of wondering what the support looked like as far as like ISR coverage to be able to kind of track all the movement of everybody coming on, because it's not like Ukraine where you have drones all over the place where you can drop munitions potentially, or just again kind of tracking the movement is the biggest thing for these guys, tracking what they have as well. And yeah, the kind of support that we're seeing in modern combat with that kind of ISR coverage, the drone coverage, definitely not a thing. You need some kind of more expensive, more kind of hard to retain assets for sure.
The second uprising was underway. CIMIC House was a cage with the Tigers of Y Company trapped inside.
I mean, maybe it helps that it's on the water, provided they're not like attacking from the water. But maybe again, maybe it could be worse
It
too.
seemed like the whole city had turned against the PWRR.
All right, jumping over to the part 2. Very funky intro there. Very sharp
CIMIC
contrast.
House took a proper pounding as Mahdi army forces swarmed around the isolated compound. All hands were called to the barricades to help halt the tide.
Dude,
As the siege of CIMIC House intensified, supplies began to run
too.
low. Before the siege, trucks had delivered supplies to CIMIC House. Now the only vehicles that could get in and out were the Warriors.
Yeah, man, that's
the
a good
Warriors
call.
obviously
Like,
it's not a resupply vehicle, it's an armoured fighting vehicle. However, to send an 8-ton truck full of stores into
big target.
Alamara at that time would have been suicidal.
You'd be running from the Warriors to the kitchen with a handful of baked beans and sausages and bacon and ice cream.
That is one of the most British things I think I could have expected to hear in a sort of Iraq war documentary. But that's crazy. They have to use infantry fighting vehicles. They need to fight their way to the resupply. Not having that assurance that you can get the bare necessities like ammunition and food and water, of course, not being able to get that there is, that's got to be a pretty nerve-wracking thing. The officers must have been just racking their minds trying to make sure that was happening. But it's kind of weird when you want to be involved in the combat, you want to direct fire and whatnot. Obviously, let the NCOs and stuff kind of work that. The kind of junior officers can kind of assist with that as well, especially with like if there's indirect fire. But also at the same time, you have these officers, they kind of have to step back and they need to try not to get sucked too much into the fighting, which, might be hard, especially if the fighting's really kind of picking up, kind of hard to ignore, and make sure that all those things are covered down on.
And you'd be getting shot at and you'd sort of have to stop and chuckle to yourself.
Between the 14th and the 25th of August, even the Warriors couldn't get through. CIMIC House was being slowly strangled to death. Conditions inside the camp got bad. Rubble was strewn everywhere. Roofs were missing. Soldiers were haggard and unshaven.
Yeah, not a
Sniper Adam
priority
Summers
for sure.
shows us just how bad conditions got.
Okay, see on the wall here, where mortar rounds are coming, all the frag has come from it. Okay, and that's the sort of the marks that it will leave. There was
Golly.
bullet holes all over the walls. There was
No
bits
kidding,
of fragmentation
dude.
from the mortar rounds and RPGs.
That is so many
If you look
rounds,
onto
so
the
much
roof,
shrapnel.
You'll see like bits where the walls come out from bullet holes.
The thing about any form of battle is noise. Noise and smell, that constant smell of cordite, and then the constant fire from small arms. And then there's the shouting, there's the constant radio traffic. Add to that the backdrop of the Muezzin's call. Add to that the backdrop of a busy and bustling city.
Oh my God.
And it was a very surreal experience.
Yeah. The PSYOP aspect
CIMIC
of
House
that
was
could get
hammered by RPGs,
so real.
rockets, and small arms fire. Life inside the ruined compound was hell. But one
dude.
weapon in particular struck fear into the defenders.
For the enemy, the most effective way to strike against us was using mortar fire.
When you hear
Oh my God, well,
fire, there's nothing worse than wondering
at least
where
they don't
it's
really
gonna
know
land.
what they're doing.
It's probably the worst feeling ever.
At least those guys. But at the same time, it's indirect fire. You don't need to be that great
CIMIC House
with it.
was malleted by mortars all that August.
Damn, dude.
After 2 weeks of constant siege, some of the younger lads began to wilt.
You could see the fractures appearing in the soldiers on a daily basis. So constant reassurance and that family spirit was required at every juncture just to keep the soldiers powering through and motivated.
When you're busy, you know, your morale's quite high. When you have time to contemplate things that are going on, think about your wives, your families, you know, girlfriends, what's going on back in the UK, when your morale can get, you know, quite low.
The British
Yeah, man. That's why I have a lot of respect and admiration, honestly, for all those the goofballs and stuff that you get in the military, especially in the infantry. Every platoon, every squad kind of has some goofballs, and it really helps out a lot when you're just in the terrible conditions. Not just when you're talking about combat, of course, when you have some downtime and you have someone who's still kind of cracking jokes, of course that helps. But even when you're just in a crappy position and you're trying to find the bright side of anything, and somebody just makes like a dumb joke, very much the opposite of kind of pointing out the bright side, but they do it in a way that it just gets everybody laughing. It just gets everybody to understand that, you know, it is what it is. You kind of just have to embrace it a little bit. But yeah, human nature, of course, you don't want to be kind of getting used to, or you can't really get comfortable necessarily when you're getting hit by indirect fire or RPGs.
Army has a solution to low morale: banter.
It turns the situation from a grim one.
Yeah,
you know,
dark
you can
humor,
be wet, cold,
really.
hungry, you can be shot at, you can be
Specifically.
scared. But sooner or later, somebody cracks a joke. But what it does, it lightens the whole situation. It lifts the morale of the troops, without a doubt.
One thing that brought out the black humour in the guys was the
black humour is what
bins
they call
that
it?
we had in the camp with the big lids. People used to forget to just place the lid down and just let it fall. And when it hit the top of the bin, it sounded like a mortar impact, which obviously puts everybody
Oh
in
my
fits of laughter
gosh.
when people were diving for cover under tables.
But the lads knew that the odds they faced were no laughing matter. Outside the compound was 1,000-strong militia, determined to wipe them off the face of the earth. The top
1,000,
brass
dude,
back in
what?
Abu Naji asked the lads if they wanted to leave.
1,000.
Every 24 hours, the commanding officer would come up to me on the radio and specifically ask me if I wished to carry out our emergency evacuation plan.
Like, brother, can you just send us a lot of ammo and baked beans and we'll be all right?
The soldiers would not have been prepared to go until they knew there was nothing more that they could do. They didn't want to leave Alamara to the Mahdi army.
The lads made a stand.
Oh,
But
yeah,
with more
dude.
attacks every day,
Badasses.
how long could they last? The snipers were key from the start of the siege.
Yeah, dude.
Able
Oh
to
my
take
god.
shots from rooftop sangers at targets in the city itself.
Those laser
They
beams
were the first
especially.
line of defence against the mobile mortar team.
Damn, they must have.
That doorway, he keeps popping his head out and having a look. He's definitely armed. Over.
What orange you got? That's 850.
Make him regret that turkey peek.
Yeah, it's on a card.
And just like that, the thing about having the documentaries on YouTube is sometimes you just don't always have the end of it, you know, the rest of it, which kind of sucks. But it is what it is. I mean, with these kind of documentaries, I generally would either break it down or kind of just react to a section of it and then post kind of the original content in the description so you guys kind of finish it out. But yeah, if you guys can find the full documentary, I would love to see it. Again, I think it might have been an ITV documentary. At least I saw kind of a little watermark or something. But yeah, I'm gonna try and find the full documentary to kind of finish it. I know it kind of sucks for you guys to, you know, see part of it and then just be you know, what's going on with the rest of it. But yeah, I mean, I gotta say, I can really appreciate the mindset of those guys to be asked every single day. I mean, just to have an out, especially when things get really tough, to kind of consider that or think about that. Or, you know, you see somebody get injured or potentially worse, like killed, and to have that out kind of in the back of your mind. I mean, just to kind of be a leader in general on the ground, to know that option is there, having these emergency protocols, but knowing what it means to make that decision, and that you'd be given this key terrain to these militiamen. And yeah, for them to stick it out and to have these effects, again, it really goes to show, just like they're talking about, the snipers alone were pivotal in this, because not only do they allow you to paint a picture of what they're seeing, paint a picture of, you know, what the indirect fire is looking like, how these guys are moving, how they might be kind of calling in fires if they have a forward observer, but it creates a lot more standoff. If you have a weapon that can really reach out and touch somebody, I mean, even if, you know, they hit somebody who's at 300, 400, 500 yards, for urban combat, you know, that's kind of a little bit further even, but even still for the enemy to know that they have weapon systems that can reach out and touch them at that distance, it gets them operating at a further distance. It gets them pushed out because they know if they're going to be doing all these things within these close distances, they have the potential of having somebody letting them know that they're keeping an eye on them. And that's a tough pill to swallow. So yeah, definitely it helps a lot with creating the standoff for everybody else there. I do wonder how many sniper teams there actually were, and even how many machine guns and what other kind of support weapons they had to kind of, I guess, get that fire superiority, and again, create that kind of gap, or that capability gap, not just in the range itself, kind of gap speaking, but yeah, if you're getting hit with some pretty effective fire or machine guns, it's also going to affect how you want to push up on the compound. But really interesting documentary. I do appreciate you guys sending this my way. Again, I wouldn't have known about it otherwise until you guys sent this my way, and I can well imagine that a lot of y'all have either served in the British Army during this time, or served in the military during this time, served in Iraq during that time, or potentially were even kind of a part of this operation specifically. So if you guys do, if you have served, or if you do know anybody who has served, or you kind of heard some stories, definitely drop them down below, because those are really interesting, kind of getting the firsthand account. Seeing the documentary is one thing, but getting the firsthand account, because maybe, you know, they might get something wrong, or maybe they can kind of add something. Even just talking about the dark humor, that's something we could all kind of appreciate. Again, that kind of firsthand perspective in such a trying, difficult time. But yeah, hopefully you guys appreciated the video. That is it for this one. I will see y'all in the next one.